Welcome back. We're talking about Surviving John Vorster Square. It's a 120-minute documentary film about the life stories and ordeals of a group of female former political detainees who were held at the notorious John Voster Square headquarters of the apartheid security police in the 1970s and 80s. The documentary tells the untold stories of these women who resisted a racist and tyrannical regime and paid the price for their political activism. Mmagauta Molefe is herself a former inmate and project leader and producer of Surviving John Vorster Square. She joins us now. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Mmagauta. So I'm just wondering, you say when you were embarking on this project, it was a frightening prospect. Tell us why.
These are untold stories. These are stories that people never spoke about. And I thought, the stories of women are never spoken about. It's as if they were never in the struggle. We only hear of very few people, I think less than 5. So I thought, why don't we get the stories out there? So people should know that the women were also in the forefront, they also sacrificed, they were also tortured, they also gave their lives for the struggle, for this country to be liberated.
And you can preface it by telling us your own story as well, but I'd imagine what made it difficult was, as you mentioned, the torture. You yourself were tortured in detention. How did that come about, and was it easy to talk about it, but to also get your fellow subjects to talk about it, given that these are not things that you open up about?
It wasn't easy, not at all. What I'm discovering is that because we never spoke about these things, we put them at the back of our mind. Every time we talk, there's new things that we talk about. And this happened also with the people that I was interviewing. There are things I never spoke about that happened to me. For instance, that I got a miscarriage. I never told anyone. But last year when we started this project, out of the blue, it came and I spoke about it. And when I was interviewing people who were going through that process, when people were remembering things and they were crying like it happened yesterday, to an extent that we had to engage a team of counselors to be there when we do the shooting. So it was a very difficult process. There were times when the person we are interviewing is crying, we are crying, the whole house, we are crying, and we have to stop. It was a horrible experience to do it, but it was enjoyable because some of them were able to get a relief about when they spoke about what happened to them. And I think it's the beginning of a process of healing. There are people who agreed to be on the set and they withdrew. And there were others who refused, but as we continued, they came back to say, no, I want to be part of it.
I mean, we've been hearing as a country of late about the exact details of what happened to people like Ahmed Timur. People like Malele have also spoken about their experiences. And I've seen pictures of the electrocution equipment, even for women, that would be attached to their breasts. I know this is very graphic, but I want us to understand just how bad it was out there in isolation. Some of them have spoken about rapes. What were the crimes that led these women, including yourselves, into these cells, and did you endure some of these? Are you able to share some of them?
Yes, people enjoyed that, and because it was in isolation, everyone thinks I'm the only one who suffered. But as we were talking as a group, we discovered that most of us went through the same thing. People were electrocuted, we were kicked, we were beaten up, and most of us were made to stand until you ran mad. Different experiences, same styles of torture, very traumatic, people passing out. There are people who passed out, and when they woke up, they didn't know what happened to them. Like I passed out when they took me back to the cell, and I slept for about 3 days. And when I woke up, all these big men were standing around me. So they could have done anything because I was in a state. So we never shared these things. And remember those days, we were such small girls. Some of us were 21, we were 20, and these boys were so big, you know, their arms were so big. And you can imagine such big men surrounding small girls like us.
So I want to put
that we had done to them.
I want to put what you're talking about in present day and now as Mmagauta. We are talking about even right now in the past couple of weeks, as recent as past couple of weeks, as I said, words like terrorism, detention without trial have populated our lexicon right now. And I want you to talk about this project against that backdrop of the brutality of a system then, but also against the backdrop of systematic abuse of women now.
Well, then we knew who the enemy was. Every black person or everyone who was in the struggle knew who the enemy was. The difference today is that it is so clouded, you don't know who you are fighting. And it is worse in that it also happens in the house, at home, with people that you know, at work, and in the community. Well, it used to happen those days, but maybe because we didn't talk about it. The struggles of women are everywhere, at work, in the community, and the new laws that were, the new government that came into place does not give us that much protection because people are still being raped, they are still being killed, and they are not sent to jail. The cases take time to be opened, so people don't even have the confidence in the system itself. So, still happening.
So you have said the making of this documentary was itself not without its difficulties. One of the initial donors was amongst those who tragically died of COVID-19, was one of the first victims. How has it helped you look at the unforeseen vulnerabilities and pandemics that lie ahead for the future of women coming up? Because you are releasing this in commemoration of Women's Month, to look back at some of these issues.
What we want is to record history, because the first thing, the stories are part of healing for the women, but they are
oh, what a pity that
a lesson to the generation. They are, because we don't talk about it recorded, will help everybody. It will help the generations. They will know that my sister, my mother, and all the women also gave their lives to this. And while that is happening, the women are healing for telling their story.
And it's what we've been talking about here on the Full View, about women recording their history and being recorded in history. Thank you so much for speaking to us about that. Mmagauta Molefe is a filmmaker and former prisoner at the notorious John Vorster Square police station, about the release of that 120-minute documentary surviving John Vorster. Well, that's in celebration and commemoration of Women's Month.